Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
Guess what, Cameron? We're going to school.
Heck yeah.
I don't study for the
I don't
test.
want to go back. Yeah. Okay, what are we talking about today?
All right. So, as you all know, hello. Moticon Trash. And this is
Cam.
So, welcome. TechBrew. So, yeah, we're just going to jump right into it. So, basically, we're mainly just going to talk about just kind of two things, but all in general, just talking about the future of AI, but being kind of developed into the education system of, schools. It could be from like pre-K to 12th grade, all the way to college, universities, all that kind of stuff. It's very scary and it's very debatable because it's a lot of like good and bad, because it's all over the place, because it's like us as humans, we still don't really know how things are going to go with this kind of thing. And it's very scary because we're like, yeah, it could be a good benefit, but then on the other side, it's like, well, and from articles that I've been just kind of reading, it's like the calculations and polls and things like that, it's been very back and forth, high numbers of like good stuff, of like things like that, or other stuff of very low numbers of people that don't really have those kind of capabilities, or just in general of schools saying, no, we're not going to use AI because it's just going to be cheating or whatever. And then they just completely ban it from the school district. But obviously kids can still use it.
Yeah.
On their, they have phones. They could still use phones and things like that. So, but yeah, if you wanted to, with that article you were reading about, just kind of like give a little basis
summary.
Summary what's been going on.
So, a little backstory. I discovered this whole entire thing. It just showed up on my For You page on TikTok, and I keep seeing updates about it occasionally. So I've been following it a little bit, but this article actually sums it up a lot better because it tells the full story essentially. But there was this college student who goes to, I don't know which college, I think it's the University of North Georgia, who last year turned in a paper through turnitin.com, and turnitin.com flagged it as AI written, as bot written. And so she goes on telling this story on her TikTok about how she used Grammarly for corrective punctuation and misspellings and all that, as most of us do in our day-to-day life. We use some variation of autocorrect. That's what Grammarly is, autocorrect. But in her case, turnitin.com flagged her article or her report as being bot written, and she got a 0. And so this article is insane, but she basically talked about it on TikTok. It blew up. She got contacted by Grammarly. She got contacted by, like everybody that, showed her support for this thing that happened that shouldn't have happened, because Grammarly is not cheating in a sense. And then there could be discussion about that as well, because, But pretty much the basis of Grammarly is it just autocorrects words, right? It doesn't make you a better writer. It doesn't write words for you. Or maybe it does. I don't actually know. But in this case, she didn't use anything like that. She just used it to correct punctuation errors. And she didn't have any issues with that. She didn't see any issues with using Grammarly. Matter of fact, she said that her other teachers at the college would always tell their students that they should use Grammarly to help with their punctuation and stuff. Because it's so widely used, it's such a common tool that we all use. Let's see here. Shortly after she got flagged for a 0, the school posted or sent an email out to all students reminding them that they should not be using AI to help assist with writing their articles, which kind of seems like they were calling her out without calling her out.
They're like, hey, other like
it was literally the next
this
day.
person, yeah,
right, yeah, you guys know not to do that, right? So, and now she's been contacted by Grammarly. She's I think she's also like suing the school because the school refuses to take back their determination. Which I understand, because reading through this article, because her article was flagged as an AI, written by AI, she had to take a do not cheat plagiarism seminar at her school. And she had to pay $105 to take this class for something that it's just Grammarly. I'm trying to find the part where it actually talks about that. Where is it?
Yeah. Well, and just to throw it in there, Grammarly, because I've used it a little bit, but the majority is, yes, it kind of writes things for you, but it still gives you that thing of the program will help you a little bit, but it's still trying to tell you, like, okay, now you do the rest of it,
right?
But
gives you a little push.
The only thing is it'll just correct, obviously, words, like, it'll have the little red underline, and then you hover over it and it'll give you like 4 or 5 other words that would make more sense or sound more professionally. And then, or you would do that, and then it would just automatically put, apostrophe or something,
or comma or is needed.
But yeah, it's kind of more, it does 10% of the work, but you do 90% of the work. But that's all it is. And that's the thing, though, is and technically, for those that are still kind of curious about it, but it's still AI, but this is more of just helping you, and it does a whole lot of stuff. It does stuff with, like, school papers they have to do with, like, an essay, or it could literally help you with tons of things, or like just writing an email to your boss or your professor.
It's an everyday scenario type thing. It helps with all writing situations. Not just academic.
But continue.
So it dropped this article, or the report gave her a 0, dropped her GPA to a point where she couldn't qualify for a specific scholarship that she was wanting to get. So now she's raising money to pay for her school. She had to pay $105 to attend a seminar about cheating. And so there's nothing specific about their terms of service, the schools. or student code of conduct.
Is that just how the system works, with it just being like, turnin.com, and the professor is just like, well, here's what it is, and it's just like, gonna get bad grades, so it's like they have to like send it to their boss or whatever, and then goes up to the board, and what is it at that point? Are they just like,
Right.
well, this is what the system says, so we'll
Yeah.
assume that she cheated, or probably plagiarized or something,
Right.
and just go from there. And it's just like, all right, well, good luck.
Yeah. There's actually a very good quote from Turnitin themselves, from the chief product officer of Turnitin, who said, educators should use Turnitin's detection system as a starting point for a conversation with the student, and not as a final ruling on the academic integrity of the student's work. And she even says, that has been the company's advice for its plagiarism detection system as well. So their whole entire Turnitin.com purpose, their reason states this should not be used as a final determination on a paper. You shouldn't take its word and say, oh, it's plagiarized, 0, next paper, which a lot of educators do that. They think it's the ultimate grading system, and it's not. Both Turnitin.com and Grammarly are on her side. So what does that tell you? And both of them have spoken publicly about this incident with this. There's a person from Grammarly who points out that even if an AI detection system is right 98% of the time, that means it falsely flags 2% of papers. And it says, give an example of how big that can be. If a university has 50,000 students and they all turn in a paper, that means, based off of that ratio, 1,000 papers would be falsely called cases of cheating. So this girl, after all this happened, right? I believe she's still trying to fight the case, trying to fight it with her school to get it removed. She's actually become a intern for Grammarly as a spokesperson. So she kind of got a job based off of all of this happening. I don't know what she was going to school for, if it was business or if it was something completely related. But she is now a paid intern at Grammarly to be like a social media influencer for the use of Grammarly within colleges, which is, she's kind of the best case study for that, if you think about it. Or maybe the worst, I don't know. But she is trying to basically promote and preach, if you will, that AI plagiarism sites like Turnitin should not be an ends-all system for grading papers. And she actually proved that theory, because she, after this first incident happened and she was talking with her school and trying to get it reversed, her professor apparently used a different AI plagiarism system. CopyLeaks is another AI detection system, just like Turnitin. He took her paper, the same paper. This was like the day after the initial incident. He took that paper, he or she took that paper into CopyLeaks, and it also came back as plagiarized. Well, then the student, like a few weeks later, or maybe a few months later, took her same paper, unedited in any way, put it back into CopyLeaks like a month later, and it came back that it was human written. So she was trying to prove that AI detection systems should not be an ends all, means all for grading homework papers. One of the things that was actually quite shocking was that after this TikTok blew up, this series of videos, there's like 20, 30 videos where she gives updates. But after this video kind of skyrocketed, she's been getting DMs and messages from other students who have also been falsely flagged for using Grammarly and other spell checking systems within their own school. And she says a student had contacted her, a fellow student from a different school, I believe. A student said she wanted to be a doctor, but she got accused, and then none of the schools would take her because of her misconduct charge. So she got fined for student misconduct. And because of that, none of the schools in her district would accept her as a student, could get her doctorate degree. So do you want to know the implications of using AI checkers? Here's how it can affect your life. It's not just, oh, I got a 0 on a paper, life moves on. No, you get fined. It goes on your permanent school record, and schools will then stop accepting you as a student, or you'll get, less schools giving you a chance to get a degree. So it absolutely has real world consequences for this system that is very hit and miss.
Yeah, and then what does that say for that student if they did the same thing? If they put it through a few more websites, and then it comes up like not AI written or like not plagiarized. So I mean, still, but at that point, it shows proof. But then obviously, the other places, they're going to look at it and they're just going to be like, no, you still plagiarized, or you still used it through AI. No, we're not going to accept you or whatever. But it's just like, not unless I run it again.
Yeah.
For professors having their what's it called? Like teaching preferences of like, if you get a bad grade, you get a bad grade. That's how it works. I don't know why I sound like Trump for a minute, but but yeah, isn't that supposed to be technically what the education part of it is? You're supposed to, okay, here's why. Well, obviously the websites, they tell you, it's like, okay, well, here's why you got everything wrong, or here's all the errors. But kind of like what you were saying, it should be a thing of, okay, we'll give the person a second chance to write a paper or whatever it was that she was assigned to. If it was like an essay or something, just have her write it down, hard copy, handwritten, whatever, or something, and turn it in that way, and then go from there. But that it's from our points, and even for me and you, I mean, for both of us, we went to the same high school years ago, but it was totally different back then. Yeah, it's like
years ago.
Yeah, years ago.
Walk through the snow up and down and sideways to the moon and back. Graduated less than 10 years ago.
Even just a dusting of snow, we still had to go to school.
I got my first car was a horse.
Okay, we're not that old. But
it hadn't even
still,
been 10 years
just yet. Yeah, but just from our time when we went to high school, it was very different. And
back then we couldn't use our cell phones as calculators, because we're not going to have our cell phones in the real world, or we're not going to have our cell phones in college.
Yeah,
that was proven false instantly after I got my first job.
Yeah, but it's just, I think for not accounting for all, but just majority of the professors and teachers in today's system, it's just a lot of, okay, well, I got this huge stack that I have to grade through. So I'm, okay, failed, pass, failed, pass,
Right.
failed, pass.
That's an issue.
Yeah.
For that's I don't know what the words I'm looking for are, but that's an issue with the educator. Educators are, they be an ed they they get an education to become an educator, to teach and to learn and to to not cop out and just take a photo of the paper and say, oh, they flagged it as 0, so I'm just gonna mark it as 0 and move on. That's kind of the point of being the teacher, is to grade the paper and to understand the student's perspective, because maybe that student needs a little bit more assistance and help in a specific category of their education. And you kind of take that away if you just leave it up to AI to say that the paper was flagged.
Yeah.
So.
And to kind of like still in the same kind of topic is, with schools doing a lot of thinking about chat GPT in schools,
Yeah,
and kind of more just for introducing it to like pre-K first graders, till seniors in high school.
I hope a
And
first grader doesn't know what Chat GPT is.
I hope so far from this from this article, I think the good news is, I hope, is they're trying to introduce that later on, like maybe when they get to like
Mid-high.
fifth or sixth grade, maybe.
Yeah, like
I
middle
mean,
school.
I think that's maybe reasonable thing to kind of introduce
Right.
it, or maybe seventh or eighth grade. Maybe that's probably better.
Yeah.
But it, as of right now, it's still very with like this percentage of schools aren't allowing it because they just don't trust it, and then others are kind of introducing it because it's somewhat helping
Mm-hmm.
students to learn, and somewhat, but like I was saying earlier, some of them are just completely banning them, and they're like, you can't use chat gpt or whatever, or we're not going to allow it, we don't want to get into the AI field,
Mm-hmm.
um and I feel like it could help, but I feel like we would need to, um like, for instance, if like me and you were, let's just say like we were both teachers,
Mm-hmm.
I would probably view it more as, okay, this amount of time to use chat gpt, but you still need the human interaction, and you need able to kind of more projector, smart board, visual to like read
Yeah.
stuff on there, because I don't really think at this point textbooks really becoming aren't really around as much anymore, because it's more projectors on a
Yeah.
thing.
Did I ever
But
tell you, real quick, did I ever tell you my, I don't know if we had the same history teacher. We probably didn't, for senior year. But did I tell you my senior year, which, spoiler alert, 2016. You want to know how old I am? I graduated 2016. My
yeah,
senior year,
we both
graduated.
graduated 2016. Yeah.
My senior year in high school, I remember this to this day. 2016. I got my history book, and I don't even remember what the history class was. I think it was world history. Um, the every history book has current events, obviously, including who the current president of the United States is. My history book had William Clinton as the current president of the United States. Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton was the current president of the United States in that book. And I don't remember what years he ran from. I definitely know it was late 90s to early 2000s. It was obviously before 2001 because I do know very specifically that Bush was president from like 2000 to 2008. I want to say, or 2001 to 2008.
I
Or
should know that.
three.
I should know this, but I'm
Mhm.
googling it right now.
Oh, Clinton.
Yeah.
Well, you had Clinton, Bush, Obama, and then Trump. Yeah, I think he was late 90s to or early mid 90s to 2000, maybe 2000, like early 2001.
1993 to 2001.
Yeah. And then Bush was 2001, 2008.
How you doing, America?
Mind your America. It was redneck.
Yeah.
Mass production.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Good old country
But
boy. Anyway. History, yeah. Sorry. Go back. Go continue.
Yeah. But that's kind of interesting just to kind of get is like, let's say if you were a teacher and let's say the school district you worked for saying, okay, yeah, we can use AI for whatever. It's like, have at it. How would you kind of handle it?
That I don't know. That was actually a good question. I had a question that was very similar to that I was going to ask you. Or not really a question, but really a statement. I don't. I do use Chat GPT occasionally for stuff mostly for programming language. Um, and as an educator, I mean, here's the thing that I say with technology in general, right? Technology is not going away. It's only going to go up, whether that's a good up or a bad up. It's going to go up. I foresee the newer generation of teachers, people our generation, will find a way to incorporate AI into their daily plan. Whereas the older generation of teachers will probably be absolutely against it. Like teachers that we had absolutely probably not use AI as part of their curriculum. Now I don't know. I mean, I would definitely would want to find a way to use it, and for students, not necessarily just to give them the answer. I would want to find a way to just show them how you can use it, almost kind of like searching on Google. Because let's be honest, you can't retain every piece of information that you get in school. It's impossible, right? So it's fairly impossible to remember every single book wrote or read, read in high school, every math equation out there. That's impossible. Everyone uses Google to help them remember. So in the case of using I have no idea how I would incorporate it. I know I'd want to, for sure, because it's a tool that it's going to be using AI today is like how we would use our cell phones as a calculator back in our time, right? It was taboo, but then when you get out to the real world, everyone uses Google on their phone or a calculator at work. Most jobs, depending on the job, don't care if you Google how to do something as part of your job within reason. Um, so I definitely foresee it being something that's going to have to be taught in school. Maybe its own subject, and not necessarily a part of an already existing subject of math, history. Um, it might be included in like a computer science class. I definitely think it's a subject that needs to be taught in school. I just don't know the best way to do it.
Oh yeah, definitely in computer ed class.
Definitely, it
Yeah.
needs to be part of the curriculum, not necessarily be taught how to be used in other subjects, like how to use it in a history class. Probably not going to come up with a great way to do that. Maybe you are. I don't know. Definitely not math class because then you're not going to pay attention to math. You're just going to Google the answer, and then you're going to lose the fundamentals of math. Um,
yeah.
Which is funny coming from a guy who doesn't like to do math.
I don't
But
know.
yeah, I definitely think that it's going to be something that's going to be its own subject somehow, computer science or what have you, an extracurricular activity or something along those guidelines is probably how I would use it as if I was a teacher or a principal or anything part of the school district. It would be its own subject.
Yeah.
So
And I say it a lot, and I mean I'm sure you can agree, because a lot of the stuff that I've learned throughout high school is just with human interaction. When teachers would um, put us in groups, even though I was internally screaming that I didn't want to do that,
mhm.
because
I was a group person. I don't know about you. I was a group person. I like bouncing off ideas.
but yeah, exactly. It's like, and you can't, you what's the point in that if you have GPT that's just going to be like, okay, here's the answer. It's like
Right.
there's no story behind it. Here's the
Yeah.
answer.
Right. Where's the emotion behind? Where's the pain and suffering that you had to do 17 lines of math equations to get the answers for?
Yeah, and I'm sure there's some people that, I mean, obviously love to do math, and
Oh yeah.
they love breaking things down. They're
Those are
gonna
the
be
weirdos.
like, yeah,
Just kidding. Just kidding.
they're gonna
Well,
be like with Chat GPT, like, okay, I'm curious, okay, Chat GPT solve this equation for me, and it's just boop answer. Then they're gonna be like, okay, explain to me how you got that answer. I mean, obviously it's gonna be like, okay, I did this, and then I got the answer. And it's like, okay, well, there's other ways to do that, or
right.
there's,
Well,
the
here's the thing too. Let's say you ask Chat GPT or any of those AI websites to solve an equation for you, right? And it gives you an answer, right? You're gonna have to prove that they're right because ChatGPT is not always accurate. A good example of that is phones versus calculators. Um, do PIMDOS differently, parentheses, exponents, division, whatever. Um, they both sometimes they will do the equation differently. I've noticed. So if
interesting.
you have a math equation and you type it in on your phone with parentheses, so x plus blah 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 in parentheses, and you do it on an actual traditional calculator, sometimes you'll get two different answers because the phone doesn't always follow the PIMDOS rule, whereas a calculator would.
Exactly.
I don't know why phones don't do that. I think they just see the numbers and they just go that plus that plus that plus that plus that. They don't see the parentheses. I don't know, but I have noticed that if you use a calculator versus a phone, it'll give you two different answers sometimes, depending on how complex the equation is. So even our phone calculators are not always accurate. So I guess I have to give it to teachers then. There, they're not always accurate. But that's the thing with like Chat GPT, right? You ask it to do this long equation that you have no you're a student, you're in high school, you don't know the answer, right? It may not use the correct formatting, right? And it gives you the answer 4. Well, then you do it. You have to know how to do that exact equation, and you do it the way that is the actual standard method, and you get the answer is 37. So when it comes to
R-
math in particular, definitely don't use AI because they may not always use the same and the proper method.
right, and that could be, see, like, perfect example. It's like if you were a teacher and you were kind of doing um, computer s
Mhm.
kind of things, and um, you're teaching them like, okay, well, this is how you solve the problem, or this is how this works, or this is how that doesn't work. And then it's
Mhm.
like, okay, now you have permission to use ChatGPT or whatever, like website, and then
Right.
then that could be a good learning point, I think, for some students, for them to be like, okay, well, I typed it in and this is what it gave me, or this is what paragraph it gave results for. And then that's when you can kind of cut it off and be like, okay, yeah, don't use it. And then it's like, okay, now what do you think?
Mhm.
Is that does that seem right to you, that what we like, whatever, like what we just went over? Or if that makes sense,
Yeah. Yeah.
that I
Absolutely.
think would be interesting then,
Mhm.
which I'm very fearful of. The future of education is, if hopefully it's not going to turn out to just be, but I'm just kind of like visually just picturing like a teacher just grading things
Mhm.
and not interacting as much, and then just picturing either with phones or laptops, just all the students, with their head down, looking at their phone and just using these AI stuff, or just computers, and just
Yeah.
doing all that. And then there's like, okay, how are they going to learn
Mhm.
this kind of stuff? And yeah, not necessarily with like English or history, but the more reasonable kind of classes to take.
Yeah, yeah. I think with ChatGPT in particular, another instance of where it can, or where it sometimes isn't always where it's right, but always not in the right context. For example, specifically is with programming, like writing C# script, which is what I've been using it for a little bit to help with game development. Sometimes I'll ask it to write me a script to do a specific function, and it gives me, outputs a script that I use, but it's not using the right input system that Unity is using for their new input system, as they call it. Um, their new way of making objects and making things move and whatnot. They have a newer version that still uses scripting language, but the formatting is different. But if you just ask ChatGPT to write me a script that makes the player move or that makes whatever move, it generally will give you 9 times out of 10 the old version and the old method. Now, if your game isn't built off of the old input system, it's not going to work. So, with systems like ChatGPT, when you ask it to output something, you have to be very specific because there's multiple answers it'll give you that are technically correct, but it's the specific version that you need to specify, or else you're not going to get a true answer that is the one you're looking for.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
yeah,
well, I think that pretty much wraps it up for today. And yeah,
yes,
I think this is a very um, interesting one, and I think we can kind of do this as like a AI part two kind of
yeah, to the
thing.
first video,
Just
yeah,
just kind of ranting about it. But
yeah. I definitely think
yeah,
that AI in the education system is going to have to be addressed on a grander scale because there's not really a true way of just omitting it from education. It's going to get to a point at some point in our lives. It's going to get to a point where it's going to be integrated, right? That's just how society works. So when it gets to that point where you have to address it, it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see where it goes.
yeah, there's there's definitely going to have to be some more barriers put up, and just things like this that we start off with this article, things
Mhm.
like that. And it's very it's very scary, and it's something that we're just gonna have to look into, and hopefully later on definitely do like another like update just to kind of see how that's going,
Yeah,
because this one's very interesting and it's very, very, very important for
right.
the younger generations. So
Absolutely. We'll see how they use it.
yeah, we'll just have to see. So, but
Yes, sir.
alrighty, well, that's gonna wrap it up, and
Is it my
I
turn?
believe it's your turn. Yes, sir. So
Alrighty, folks. As we always say at the end of these podcasts, drink coffee in moderation, and don't believe everything you hear on the internet, and don't believe everything that AI gives you as a result of whatever question you ask it. It's not always right.
true that.
True
Oh,
that.
cheers to that.
Cheers.
So, alrighty, have a good one, y'all.